Welcome to Getting to Know Yahowah's Beryth family, where we get to learn about the members of Yahowah's covenant family. I hope you will join us on our journey. Welcome to Getting to Know Yahowah's Beryth family. Today we have two special guests with us. I always say special guests because everybody in the covenant family is special to me. That said, today's guests are very dear to me and make this episode even more special. Today we have my stepfather, Robert Christiano. Everyone knows him as Bob. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you, Mark. Welcome. Glad to be here.
Awesome. We also have Joey Christiano with us, who is Bob's great nephew and my cousin through marriage. Today's actually the first time we're meeting face to face, so that alone makes this very special. Welcome, Joey.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to join my family here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. I'm very excited to have both of y'all, and I know you guys are excited to be here with each other right now. So this is going to be an awesome show. All right. So the plan is for Bob to tell his story. Then after that, time permitting, have Joey share his story as well. I know some of y'all have heard a little bit of Joey's story on the Y to Z show. So just he might have a few more details and make it a little more special that he's here with his Uncle Bob. So, all right, I'll quit rambling for now. And Bob, the floor is yours.
All right. So let's see. I was born and raised a Baptist born-again believer in Jesus. Oh, boy. Okay. But anyway, I went through my life like that. Most of the family went to the same church. This is back up in Buffalo. So, time went on and stuff. And it wasn't until I was about 50 years old that I really started to have questions about Christianity. And before I even knew Yah or even found Craig or any of that, I started doing some research on my own. One of the things in the New Testament, if I can get this straight is the way, narrow is the gate. Few there are that find it. And I go, well, okay, I know few doesn't mean three. So I started Googling, and I Googled world's religions and their followers. Next thing you know, it spits out a list about this long of religions. I never even knew some of them were religions. But at the top of the list was Christianity, the number one religion with over 2.1 billion followers at that time. So common sense and logic told me, well, Christianity is not the few. So that started me on more researching. And then I started researching, and I run into the Sacred Name movement. And I figured, oh man, this is beautiful. This is what I'm looking for here now, So the more I dug into it, it's nothing more than Christianity with Pauline stuff and some Hebrew words. Okay, it was the Sacred Name movement. Then it was the Messianics, and that was the same thing. And then it was the Hebrew roots. Okay, so I was getting nowhere but frustration, And I remember 2:30 in the morning, I got my head in my hands, frustrating in front of my computer. And again, I didn't know God as Yahowah at the time, but I cried out to him, and I says, look, there has to be more to you than me going to church every Sunday and learn about Paul. You're bigger than this, okay? Show me things I haven't seen before. Teach me things I don't know. So, like I said, it was like 2:30 in the morning, and I went to bed. And next day I got up and, went to work, all that kind of stuff, and started researching again. And I bump into this guy, Craig Wynn. Okay. And my first thought was, all right, let's see what this guy has to say. So I start reading some of his stuff, and it's like, wow, I started resonating with it right away, and I immediately started fact checking stuff. Okay, and it was like, wow, there it is right there. It's true what he's saying. And I just kept going on and on and on, following that stuff, and I couldn't get enough of it. And I figured this is finally what I'm looking for. And what really, I read it. He didn't have many books at the time, and but one of the books I read was the most important one for me, and that was Questioning Paul. That one really, Paul was my superhero. This guy bitten by snakes, drowned, stoned. He was like, wow, he's a superhero. And I read Questioning Paul, and that was like for the first time, I understood what Yahowah was really saying, and I came to know and understand what Paul was actually saying, not through the King James Bible, And it was just crumbling my foundation, shattering it, and I was so angry. I went through just a litany of emotions about Paul. I was played for a fool. I couldn't believe I followed this guy, so on and so forth. And I just said, and Yah spoke to me, and not in an audible voice, of course, but when you know in your gut. And he said to me basically, like, how about if I just tear out your foundation completely? Let's start all over from the beginning. And I said, great, let's go. Let's have at it. And I've never turned back since. It's been wonderful, wonderful journey. When I was a Christian, I always have a tendency, I'm on fire for the Lord, and then you fall away, and then you come back. Like, once I come to Yah, it's always this. There's none of this.
Mm-hmm.
Great, and then tried to share that with my sibs. Oh my gosh! I learned lessons the hard way, and one of the lessons I learned was don't get into it with religious people. Forget about it. And I have a brother that lives real close by. I'm in Florida right now. I have a brother that lives close by, and my sister would come down with her husband every year for vacation, stay with them, and I'd go over there, and this topic would always come up about Yah. Okay, and there would be some questions that were common, and they didn't have the answers, so I'd go home and I'd look up Craig's translations, I'd find the answer, and I'd go through the trouble of printing out a copy for each one of us so we could read at the table. So I'd go back there, the next day, and like, hey, here we go. I got the answer right here, and here we follow along. Let's read it. And there would be no reaction at all from these people. They're looking at me like, I've got a third eye coming out the side of my head here, And just lifeless. And I would say to them, what's the matter with you people? You don't have any response to this? Oh, we've got an answer from Yah right here to the question. No reaction at all. They're looking, I'm telling you, it's like I was looking at The Walking Dead. Lifeless eyes. And I couldn't believe it, and I'm standing up, and I'm getting real aggressive, and it's going nowhere. Just nowhere. So, after a number of rounds of that, and even up to nowadays, I don't even bother with religious people. If someone wants to know, wonderful. I'll share whatever I know and understand. But as far as trying to get into it with religious people, forget it. I'm done with that. Sarah and I even sent out mailings to our sibs and members of the family. We sent out books etched in stone, and some paperwork about the Moed Mikre and the 5 terms and conditions of the covenant, all that stuff. We got one response from everybody, and that was from Sarah's sister. And her words were, quote unquote, I don't know who's deceived you, but I will never be on the path that you're on, unquote. And I said to Sarah, boy, if she only realized what she's saying, that's the path. This is the path you need to be on. So, the group of people just shrinks.
I got a question for you.
Fire.
Do you want to go into, and you don't have to, it's up to you. Do you want to go into anything like from your past, like when you were younger, the things you've gone through? Or do you want to, or I have another question if you don't want to do that, like just things you've had to go through, overcome, stuff like that.
That have nothing to do with this.
I mean, I guess, I don't know. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's different for everybody. It kind of looks like, for me, I guess some of the things that I go through and struggle with were all part of like, I guess my journey to Yahowah. But like you said, I guess it's not relative all the time. So, but if not, I do have another question for you. Like my other question would be, how, when you learned all this stuff, right? You obviously were with my mother, at the time. How'd you share it with her? How'd that go about? How'd that go over? Because I know she was really religious in Christianity as well. So,
well, as I was discovering things, I go, Sarah, I got to share this with you. I got to show you this, that, and the other. And one of the things was about paganism. And it's funny how, I think Yah takes all of us through our own personal journey. Okay. For me, in the beginning, it was the name. Now, when I was a Christian, you're always in the New Testament, and you read about the name. You pray with the name, praise the name, sing about the name, but nobody ever says, "What's the name?" Okay, so what is the name, for crying out loud? So once I found that out, I shared that with Sarah, and she couldn't deny any of the facts that was there. And so we just started. I mean, we dropped Christmas and stuff immediately. Just stopped all that stuff. But it was an individual journey. Yah took me through the name, and then things that were coming off the page about paganism and so on and so forth. And she couldn't deny it. She just got on board with it and stuff.
So there wasn't any resistance or anything. It was kind of, once you showed her the stuff, it was like, whoa, this makes sense.
Yeah. And when I was younger, I had great parents. Unfortunately, they raised me in Christianity because that's what they knew.
Yeah.
And I raised my kids in Christianity because that's what I knew at the time. But I think of some of the things I've said when I was a Christian, like, quote unquote, there is no one or nothing that will ever persuade me from being a Christian. And now I think back as, well, I guess I had other plans.
It's like watching you when you're saying it, and he's like,
yeah.
Little do you know, Bob. Little do you know, I have plans for you.
Try this.
Yep.
Yeah. So you did have, obviously, with my mother, but you had some success as well with a couple people in your family, didn't you?
I did.
Sharing it.
That young fellow there.
Joey.
Hey.
Now, mind you, we've never met in person.
Yeah.
Nope.
He said when he was a baby. He saw you when he was a
Maybe
baby.
I don't even remember that far back.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you get ancient.
Yeah, I don't even remember yesterday, but yeah, him and his mom and brother and Kara and stuff like that. We would have Skype sessions,
Yep.
And they were kind of getting a bit of a confused story, and so we would have these Skype sessions, and we would just, let's take a trail, let's go on a walk through the Torah and see where we end up. And one thing led to another, and people became covenant. When I was in my practice as a natural health practitioner, a couple of other people came to be covenant. A couple of people came to be covenant and dropped out. Other people never saw me again. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I lost money, but I didn't care. I don't care if I was going to lose a dime, for sharing Yah's name. He'll replace that, and he did.
What out of your family now, who are besides my mom, and then myself, because you obviously want to share with me, we have Joey here, and then you have Kara Joe. Are those the only ones like that you can think of? Those two that are actually we know are covenant, and
you
and me, yeah. But other than that, the other people kind of drifted off, like your mom, Joey, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You, Joey, Kara have stuck.
Yeah.
You're stuck with us.
With you.
Sorry, Yahowah.
Have it no other way.
No, I didn't mean stuck with you guys.
No, I'm just messing with you. I knew
okay.
you didn't mean that.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
stuck. I get it.
You guys stuck with it.
I'm just being my normal goofy
Yeah, that's
self.
okay. And with you, Mark, me and your mom, just constantly a little, feeding you a little bit, feeding you, and you're an extremely intelligent person. And I know you had to think it over, and you're supposed to.
Yeah.
You're supposed to think it over.
I don't know how much I ever disagreed with it. I think it just took me time. I mean, in the beginning, it was just hearing it, but I never I never shut it out. It wasn't like I was like, I didn't want to hear it or disagreed with you. Because I had questions and things like that. And some of the stuff, about the name alone was always something that just kind of made sense to me that it should be in there, even if we couldn't pronounce it, and it shouldn't be taken out in the YHWH, tetragrammaton, all that stuff. But I don't think I was ever like opposed to it, I guess. I would always listen, and was open to it. My sister's the complete opposite. It's like you say it, and it's like acid burning her. But anyway, I was always open to it, and I think it just took my own time. I don't know that I paid much attention to it. Don't know if, and then eventually just over time, and then I just had to make the choice. But yeah, so.
I remember telling you and really emphasizing the point, and I wanted you to understand that the importance of observing Passover, but not matzah. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Like, man, don't either do it all or don't do any of it.
Yeah.
And that was important. And I wanted to make sure you understood that.
Matzah.
Yeah.
It's where our guilt's removed.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
I don't want to live forever with my guilt.
yeah.
No, thank you, Sheol.
Yeah.
Me either.
Yeah. So, all right. So everybody was pretty receptive. Then I guess, what we could do for now, we can circle back and go back and forth and do however, but do you want to share your story, Joey? I mean, because obviously I know that
Sure.
it starts with Bob introducing, Yahowah to you. So.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I know on one of our Y to Z episodes, we all, kind of gave our story. And so I'll just kind of briefly summarize. So growing up, I had.
So you're saying
Mom's-
that my show's not good enough for you to go into your full story?
Oh, no, I can, trust me, I can go
I'm messing
on and
with
on.
Take your time, dude. Give us whatever version you want. It doesn't matter to me. Everybody knows my shows are laid back. So if they're 20 minutes or an hour and a half, whatever, we'll just do
Yeah. Well, like we were saying last night, we're like second, third, fifth cousins removed from this relative. So this is awesome.
Yeah, I know that's good.
Yeah.
I don't know
So-
genealogy and whose cousins, nephews, brothers makes me a second or a third, but
Right.
second or third. It's somewhere in that window. I think it's third, but I don't know.
I think so. But either way, we're covenant family, and that's what's important. So
We're first brothers on that.
that's right. Exactly. So let's see. Growing up, I had mom's side of the family who was not very religious at all. There wasn't really anything pushed. And then I had on the other side of the family, I had my dad's side of the family, coming from a broken family. I would have visitations with him. And, it started at a very young age going to Catholic church. And then it turned into, the non-denominational big arena-sized churches and Christianity. And there was a short spurt of going to a Lutheran church. So it just kind of felt like I was running in circles. And I really never got to the point where I don't think I was ever overtly religious, but I think I did the things that I thought I was supposed to be doing. So go to church, attend Sunday school, blah, 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 doing all of that because it's the right thing to do. So it took me into my teens where I just really kind of fell off. And I think for good reason now looking back on it, but I didn't really think if this is it I don't know if I really want to be a part of it. Like, you love me or you go to hell. That doesn't seem like a very, loving relationship. Seems very one-sided, and it just didn't click with me. So,
I never really thought like that. That's what's weird. I hear people say it and it makes sense to me now, but I never was
yeah,
thinking about, oh, I don't want to know you, or you can't be. All I thought was, oh, you're God. And it just, the fear aspect was in my life. Like,
right.
dang, I'm going to hell. You know what I mean? I never,
Yep.
never put the piece together until I hear people say it now, and it makes sense. What kind of God's worth knowing if he's like, well, love me, worship me, or I'm going to torture you forever, or whatever. But
Yeah.
when I was a Christian, I was younger. I never put the pieces together like that. It was just, I lived in fear, and I thought I was going to hell most of my life.
Exactly. And, and then like thinking of, the example of Jesus and being perfect. And it's like, dude, I have no chance. I'm going to screw up in 30 minutes. So if that's the case, sayonara, I guess I'm out of here. But it took into my, I moved away from Buffalo where everybody pretty much lived and stayed, because it's like the old shoe theory. It feels good. It fits good. So I'm going to just stay here forever. And so I went across the country, moved to Arizona, kind of got to be on a more of an independent journey, getting into my adulthood, 18, 19 years old. And I remember being by myself, and I'm like, man, I got to find a church to go to. And I'm going around, the area in Arizona where I lived and trying to find somewhere to go. Found a place. I went to a couple of, Sunday services. I had a group of friends and a girlfriend who were all, they all did like the youth ministries and had like these weird get-togethers and parties. And I was like, oh, it kind of felt nice to be included in a group, but it didn't click. I mean, I was there because my girlfriend wanted me to be there. So it felt like I was walking aimlessly and there was no destination. So fast forward a few years, I end up moving back to Buffalo, as most people end up doing. And I remember having a conversation, and it actually was with my grandfather, Bob's brother, and we've got introduced to the name Yahweh. And it was I still remember, it was a breakfast at Denny's at like 8 in the morning, and it was introduced in a way that was almost, again, kind of in a fearful way. There was talks of, there's going to be concentration camps soon, and if you're not doing it this way, you're still going to hell. And I'm like, all right, well, I mean, at least we have a name now, but it still feels like we just put a title or a name on something that I've already been through. So I started to go with it, and we actually did Skype sessions as well. Myself, my family, and him and his wife. And I remember there was a time where a book was introduced to me by his wife, and she told me, read this book. It's really good, but just disregard when you see Jesus. Don't even worry about it. So I'm like, okay, well, read the book, and I'm reading the book, and I'm like, this is friggin' Christianity. This is exactly what it is. So now I'm even more confused. I'm like, well, what do I do? So I called my grandfather, and he goes, hey, look, maybe you should call my brother and talk to him. He might be able to help you with some of the questions that you have, because he didn't have the answers I was looking for. So, like I said, Uncle Bob, I was never met you, in person, and I'm like, all right, well, let's give Bobby a call, and we started talking. I think I was in my early to mid 20s, and we hit it off, and it just ended up. I mean, every conversation we had, to give a little inside baseball, you always say we're connecting dots, and you did a great job helping me connect dots over a very long period of time. So this was, like most covenant family, this was not an overnight, like, okay, I'm sold. I'm in. It was, okay, let's start with the terms and conditions of the covenant. Well, let's start with Yah's name. It's Yahowah. Okay, how do we get to him? Okay, 5 terms and conditions of the covenant. The Moed Mikre, and I will always say, Uncle Bob, you always had the reverse order, which always resonated with me, starting at Sukkah and going backwards and kind of going in that reverse order. That just kind of started to click with me, and at that point, it became a regular thing. We did our Skype sessions. We talked on the phone. I mean, at this point, it's got to be thousands of hours. So, it's awesome, and then still to this day. I mean, it's a very regular thing, and I don't want to gush too much, but I really, if it weren't for you pointing me in this direction, and that maybe that was Yaz, maybe you were his tool to help some of the family who was willing and had an open ear and an open mind. I don't know where I would be if I didn't get introduced, because I didn't go searching on my own. It just, I had questions. I found somebody who had the answers and could help me get there, and the rest is pretty much history.
It's very humbling to me, not in a bad way. It has the opposite effect of, so I don't, when I hear that, I don't get puffed up. Okay. It humbles me to know that, I guess, used me in someone else's life. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yours, Mark's. It's just very humbling to me, because it's like, I'm just a regular guy. Okay. But I have a love for Yah. And if someone's willing, if someone's open here, I'll share what I know and understand. It's a beautiful thing. And you run, as we've all run into the same thing, same with all the covenant family members, people that are just shut down to it. I mean, that's what religion does. Like, I remember when I first ran into Craig, one of the things he said was, religion removes one's ability to think rationally. Mm-hmm. That is so easy to prove. When and I would do this with people, and I would show them on the computer, like, the origin of the letter J. Okay, mm-hmm. What is it, 17th, 16th century, whenever it was. And I would say, okay, so the name can't be Jesus, can it? There was no J in any language.
Right.
And they would just continue to say Jesus, and it's like, all right, I'm out. Because we can't, you don't have a problem saying Nicodemus. But boy, oh boy, you can't say Yahweh. Like, ooh, no, I ain't going there. Jesus. It's like, all right, see ya. Have a nice, It's just,
we didn't know. I haven't had, I've had some conversations, obviously, with Bob and my mom and stuff about different things, some questions, some answers, things like that. But not as much in depth where you guys seem like you got, but how long has it been now when you guys first started those conversations?
10, 12 years.
Yeah. So you have a lot longer building. I've got I had years of seeds planted, and I knew some of the information, but I wasn't engaging or trying to study it. It just wasn't on my radar really.
But this guy here, he went from ground zero to where he is now. I've never known anybody to pick this up this quick, but confidently as well. It's just, it's amazing.
I don't feel that way sometimes. I have this much knowledge, but it's a work in progress.
You have more than you give yourself credit for.
Yeah. I might agree with you on that. I don't know, but I might agree, just for the fact I know I have a tendency to self-doubt, or put a negative spin on things, but agreed. But yeah, my point is we just didn't really have a lot of
time together.
It wasn't as scheduled and regular. And times when I was here, maybe some of our conversations were in depth, but not quite like yours, where you had guided questions. You had spent a regular time doing things, but the whole time seeds were being planted. I was aware. I knew, little words like, I remember one of our conversations in the beginning, and I don't remember, it could have been a decade ago or longer, talking about the word for like pick up your cross and follow me in like the New Testament, and really just pick up your staff. Like you just get your staff to go for a walk. Cross, heavy burden, it's miserable. So just, little things, even though we know the New Testament's crap, it was just like in your mind. And this may have been so far in the beginning where he was still processing information, and I don't know how far he would have been from everything, because like I said, I don't remember how long ago it was, but it's just that little thing. There's that little translation error and deceit, and then, it was the 3 destinations, which, most of my life that I can remember, I've been depressed and dealing with addictions and all that stuff. So it was like, there's been a lot of very unpleasant times where like, even maybe, like I said in my story, there were times where I didn't really want to live. So, but I always had the fear of hell. So just hearing that in the beginning was a relief. It was like, okay, worst case scenario, I just don't exist. I'm not in hell being tortured. I can deal with that. But that was like one of the things as well, and obviously along with Yahowah's name. And I haven't read many books, but it's like having a few of those things, knowing a few of those things. And, in the intro to God, where Craig actually goes in volume 1 and like explains and breaks down more about why it's Yahowah and things like that. And then, so there was little seeds planted over time. And I knew I shouldn't celebrate the holidays, and gradually quit doing it. And then, learned more, and they would tell me about the Mikre and things like that. But yeah, so it wasn't as like quite like yours, but there was definitely seeds planted. I mean, if it wasn't for Bob and my mom, I might have had questions that I didn't really go seeking answers to, and I would have never, I most likely never would have found Yahowah. But then again, too, I don't know, because Yahowah kind of knew who we were, so maybe he would have sent some other way or means into my life, but obviously that's irrelevant because this was the means, Bob and my mother. So,
when I was a Christian, another thing that got me started on my journey was, as a Christian, I would always say to myself, when I get to heaven, I wonder if I'm going to see so-and-so, and I wonder if so-and-so is going to be in heaven. And then I said to myself, what makes you so sure you're going to be there?
Yep.
And it was that important to me. That's when I started, turning over every rock, to find out. I gotta find out some stuff here. Okay, so that was part of it as well.
Yeah. And Mark, even though yours was not as regimented as far as like, the conversations that we would have, I think those little seeds over time, maybe even subconsciously, I think you may have started to turn the corner slowly but surely, and eventually got to where you are now, but not even without going to it, you even said you never rejected it or opposed it. It was just like, I'm not really acting or engaging upon it. But for somebody who reading all of the things on the Yahowah site that you post, and watching these videos, like you could fool somebody if they didn't know you that you've been doing this for a long time. So it's good, and we're all learning and growing, and that's the beauty of it, because we're never going to stop learning and growing. So we don't ever have to set the bar at a point where we think we have to get to. It's just our capability of learning is all different in how we do it and how much we obtain, and it's that's the beauty. Is it's like it's all our individual journeys, but now that we've really engaged in the family, it's like we've got everybody pushing each other, got each other's back, and the famous saying, iron sharpens iron, Uncle Bob. That's what we do. So I think we are very fortunate to be related and be covenant, because yes, there are covenant family members who do have family, whether they're married or whatever the relation is, but it doesn't seem to be quite as common. So I think personally, I'm fortunate to have that.
Oh, of course. I think that what was I say? I need to stay on myself to keep myself motivated and hold myself accountable to continue to try to accomplish things, try to read more, try to study more, things like that. However, I need to learn how to not say I have to do all this, because then it gets so crazy. It's just too much. It's not realistic. Or also not beat myself up for it. Like I beat myself down that I'm not doing certain things and maybe I should do more, but it's so counterproductive because then I do less and I'm miserable. I need to be able to give myself a little bit of like
Room.
yeah, just like I need to be a little lighter on myself. Like, yeah, keep going, keep doing, and try to do more, but don't make yourself feel bad or hold yourself to like you got to do all 3 million of these things. Just keep doing things, and if you're not doing enough, then read more, do more. And when you don't achieve that, okay, try again. Not just like, man, you're failing, you're whatever. So I got to work on that. I do wish, like you said, with the learning and all that, I wish that I could go from here to here real quick. I don't want to quit learning, but I'm so what I know is so little, and the amount that I've read is so little. I just wish I could like fast forward, because I didn't start 10 years ago, and I wish I would have. I wish I had 13, 20 books under my belt, but it's just not the case. So I just have to keep reading what I can, and then whatever I accomplish before Shabua and Shamaim, then I'm sure I'll have a eternity to read and learn some more.
Yeah, it reminds me of being a Christian back in the day. It's like, read through the Bible in 1 year. Okay. And, X amount of chapters to read every day. And, you read through the Bible. Trying to keep up with now all this stuff, the new insights and the books. And, I'm going to read through the Bible in a whole year. But how much of that am I retaining? You know what I mean? So I'd rather kind of go slow, because I like to contemplate and meditate on things that I've just read. As opposed to just download. I mean, that's great. Don't get me wrong, man. That's great and invaluable information. But I can, especially as I age now too. I mean, I can only process so much. So I'd rather get a little down. Than a lot kind of scattered.
That's where I'm kind of torn.
I got to be able to, and I could do it. We have to be able to present. Others.
Exactly.
If the situation arises, what is the offering? What is the expected return? So on and so forth. Is there a one true living God? And if so, how do I get to where he is? We got to be able to present that, because it's, I know from experience, and we all can do this. If you're talking to a newbie, you could lose them. I mean, because we're so far into this, we could lose them just like that. I mean, they can't even get past the name,
right?
Let alone tell them about Dode. And, I mean, forget it. I mean, So as I talk to people, I'm telling myself, Bob, pull back. Don't get too, because they're still interested.
It's not an arc. It's a teba. It's a teba, not an arc.
So
what?
It is.
And that's the struggle. That's the thing too. It's like, okay, so I read 3 pages or 10 pages instead of 40, or I watched 1 vlog instead of 4 that day. So I get it, but it all ties together. I think we need to all hold ourselves accountable in the sense that we are putting in effort and doing what you do, but you got to find a way to cut yourself a little break. I think I'm not good at that. I haven't figured it out. That's part of the problem, which I think can be positive, that it's pushing you to try to do more, but it can be so counterproductive, because sometimes I waste time just, stressed out.
Stuck in the moment.
Yeah. Like instead of just, I'm just going to go with it. And it just changes your demeanor and your attitude. And, I want to be happy. I want to be positive. I want to be, all the things Yahowah wants me to be. And those things are all enjoyable for us. Like all the negative things, that's not what Yahowah wants. And it's not enjoyable for me either, you know. So in progress.
Yeah, I got when I first, met Craig and stuff, and I listened to every one of his shows, and I've got a folder back there in my closet. It's about that thick. All the notes I took, and in the very beginning, it was Yahowah.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'll get that folder out and I'll look at the notes, over the years, and I could see as Craig grew, I grew.
Mm-hmm.
Just do discoveries. I go, yeah, okay, scratch that off. Okay, this is
Yep.
So it's just a wonderful journey, and it's never going to end. Like, it's just never going to end, and that's cool.
And that's crazy too,
That is
because
awesome.
I wasn't around for the very beginning, and I would like to have that knowledge so then I could like see what has changed. But even now, reading the Intro to God, and he rewrote all his books multiple times, it's like I'm trying to process it, and I hope I catch all the things that have changed. You know what I mean? Because like,
Right.
just a simple thing he was talking about the family show with the Ruach, and mentioning, it's a maternal aspect of Yahowah, but then it's like, well, not necessarily. It's just a feminine word, it's a feminine noun.
Yep.
It's not necessarily that Yahowah has a maternal side or a feminine side, but in the beginning that's what it was. So it's like things like that. So because like in Intro to 1 or the Volume 2 or whatever, it talks about that, so it's really just approaching Yahweh's the manifestation of Yahweh's fiery light, which is the Ruach Kodesh, but not the feminine manifestation, which was how it was worded. I guess you maybe could say that just because it's a feminine noun, but it's not necessarily representing the maternal nature of Yahowah. So there's things in the books. Basically, my point is that I'm hoping I notice them as I go to see what's changed. If I read enough and I have enough of a foundation, I'm not gonna like not be harvested just because I maybe don't know something. There's too much to know at all. I have the foundation. I mean, I still need to prove myself that I can overcome and I'm trustworthy, and all that stuff to be, mature. And time will tell, but I have till then to keep trying to work on it.
Like it takes Sarah and I like all day to get through either a vlog on a blog or the Shabbat show, that kind of stuff. Cause it's like, what? Wait a minute.
Oh, turn it backwards. Craig likes that.
Wait. So pause and we discuss, and it's like, all right, wait a minute. I got to think about this a second. Don't turn it back on yet. Which is good though.
It is.
Think stuff over.
Yeah. I mean, how many times? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, how many times are during our reading, and you read at the end of the end of the verse, it says, okay, pause now and contemplate, or pause now and think about, so it's not, it's not a speed read. I want to just, know everything and be able to regurgitate it. It's okay, learn it, connect it, understand it. You're doing yourself and others much more of a service by understanding than just throwing out like a, like you watch like a pastor, the over the top preachers on TV, and they're just throwing stuff out there that you're like, what the hell are you talking about? So this is substance. This is, there's some real information that you can grow with, but you got to just take your time. Yeah. And I don't think there is no fast track or fast forward button to knowing all this. It's too hard.
Yeah, I didn't even want to like that. In fact, early on, there was so much time I was spent on the porch with a cup of coffee and stuff, and thinking about what I just read and stuff. And that's where I connected a lot of dots. Okay, because I'd be saying to myself, okay, Yah said this, so that means that this over here cannot be true. Okay, Yah said this, and this and that, and I looked up the word meditation. Okay, everybody thinks meditating is no. Meditating is actually speaking one's thoughts out loud to yourself. And I figured, well, that's what I'm doing on the porch for hours. speaking out loud. Let's see, Bob, if Yah said this, blah blah blah. It's a beautiful thing, But
Yeah.
you can't do the Evelyn Wood speed reading course, just blow through this stuff. How much are you retaining? Because it's about understanding.
Mhm.
We don't want to just be a walking encyclopedia, Britannica book. We got to be able to understand it, like Craig says.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I've noticed even just personally when, Uncle Bob and I have conversations on the phone and thinking about, the first 7, 8 years, it was always like me asking questions, and it was question, question, question. Now I still have questions, of course, but I feel like we have more intellectual conversation, and it's awesome being able to have somebody, because like I said, up here in Buffalo, not a whole lot of people, if any, that you can truly just talk about with somebody. It just, you can't find it. So yeah, I mean, I'd say on average our conversations are at least anywhere from an hour to 2 hours.
Yeah.
And it's always great. So
I don't know if I've ever talked to a Covenant member for less than an hour. I mean, there might be a few small ones. Everyone's like, hey, I just need a couple minutes. It's like 45 minutes, 2 hours later, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Well, it's the topic. I mean,
it is.
Talk about it forever,
Yeah.
And especially with all the new insights coming down, it's like, oh man, okay, wait a minute.
What?
We got another hour to the conversation.
Did you have more to your story you were going to add, or I know you were talking? I think we left off. You got to knowing about you and Bob talking, so that might be kind of the end of the journey up to this point. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, that part of my journey is what kind of set me on the path, and then from there it was, reading, listening, watching, doing everything I can. Like, I know I texted you last night. I went to my brother's high school graduation, and it was the first family hour show that I haven't watched live in I don't even know how long, and I was like itching. I'm like, oh, this is so out of my routine, for good reason. He only graduates high school once, but it was like, man. So now, after we're done here today, I'm gonna listen to the show and watch it, and I just have found myself trying to, like everybody, we've all got stuff we've got to deal with here in our, earthly time. We got bills to pay, we've got jobs, we've got X, Y, and Z, and it's just finding time and dedicating it. And, whether that's watching a show and listening through it, or, trying to read a chapter a day or some, and, some chapters are 40, 50 pages, some are shorter, but really dedicating that time. And, I've said this before, but, me being an athlete and a jock my whole life, I've always had to, from that perspective, train, practice, do everything I can so that I'm prepared for the game. And I've kind of taken that after, my career playing sports ended, is okay, I know I did that for a reason. So I kind of use that analogy as what I do, daily, as far as, okay, my practice is reading, listening, and then and training. And then, when it comes to like the actual putting it into motion, it's trying to find somebody to have a conversation with. It's, contemplating on my own and just thinking about, okay, I've read this. Let me take a step back. Let me, absorb all the information and think about it and try to understand and connect all the dots. And, that's really where I'm at now. And I know that over the last few months, especially with the growth of the Yahowah site and everybody, looking for something to do and finding a way to contribute, I was thinking about it, and then, it fortunately had a number of younger people in the Covenant, and we all kind of got together and boom, we've got a weekly show that we're doing now, and I know Mark, we talked yesterday, maybe get some other things in the works. So I think that's the beauty of where we are at now is like there's such a want to this. The attitudes are great. Like nobody's sitting back and like, oh, I gotta do this, or oh, I gotta, you know, I just wanted to read and do my own thing. And now it's like everybody wants to do something that's going to grow the family, make Yah and Dode proud, and it. I wouldn't. If I look back even 5 years ago, like during COVID time, I would have never thought we would be in 2026 where we're all at now. I think it's such a fascinating journey, and I love it. I think it's so much more intimate now than it ever has been.
Yeah. I feel like I had a question, but I forgot it.
I rambled. Sorry.
Yeah. Hey, welcome to my world. At least it's not me this whole time. Now I got somebody else to help me. Do either of you have anything you add to the story? If not, we can wrap it up. And then if you think of things later on down the road, we can always do another one.
I have a curiosity question. Okay. I don't know what the answer is, and nobody has to give an answer. Okay. But I got to put it out there because I'm just curious. Do you think Yahowah knows who his covenant children will be before they're covenant children? And the reason I ask that or wonder about that is when I was having a career as a demolition man, okay, and I'm not talking about gutting a bathroom in a house. I'm talking about imploding buildings and all that stuff. I was involved in every aspect of demolition. And there were 4 times I should be dead, okay, where something happened where I never saw it coming and I never had a split second to react. Okay, I should be dead, but I wasn't. Does that play into anything? I don't know. I know there's no such thing as luck or good fortune and all that crap. Okay. So I've often wondered about that. If does Yah know, and if so, was he protecting me? Because I can't tell others about Yah if I'm dead.
I think
so.
I'm newer. I don't have Torah to back it up. Personally, I think in life, let's say, because Yah withdrew himself when the Israelites told him to shut up and go away. I don't know how much, obviously he's not just down here, and I think things can just happen, chance and things like that. Like life just happens how it happens. So I think things can happen where maybe you don't get hurt or something where maybe you could have. But I think Yahowah has to know, because just based on what Craig talks about all the time, he has to know, but he doesn't want to know. He's not omniscient, omnipresent, he's not everywhere, all that. He probably could know everything if he wanted to, but it would make it not interesting, But I think he has to know for multiple reasons. One is it just makes sense. He kind of sees, all right, they're gonna be my kid, because if not, how would he prophesy, relatively speaking, to the weight of Ophir and the remnant and all that? How would he know what the remnant is if he doesn't have a clue of what, you know what I mean? So he couldn't prophesy about that if he didn't. So that popped in my head as I was talking because I didn't have any Torah stuff. But the fact that he even mentions that and prophesies about the weight of the gold and how, well, he's had to have seen something. So I would think that he knows who's going to be covenant, and he's probably just enjoying the journey and watching us grow and how we get there. I also think that, I don't know if he protects us from everything, but he does have Malak. So he could be like, this one's going to be covenant, watch over them. And they all know their job and they know what to do. So I think it's highly possible that he has Malak. I mean, Craig talks about the Malak all the time, and it is crazy that he's been there. I don't know how many years he's been on that island, but 10, 8, whatever, longer, to not have a hurricane in the middle of the Caribbean Sea. That's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Or at least close enough, even closer than they come to cause some kind of damage. So to me, he's got to protect certain people. How he decides that, is everybody who's covenant have Malak that protect him? I mean, I don't know, but I think he has to know who's covenant or who will be, and just doesn't look at the journey, basically.
I started this 20 years ago. That's a long time. But I wonder, and I'll just in closing for me, do we really realize how blessed or fortunate, whatever you want to call it, we are, number one, to be exposed to Yah's truth, okay, and to have accepted it and embraced it. Because there's some, and now it's out there through the yada.com website. I mean, the truth is out. But some people still aren't exposed to it, and some are, and they don't accept it. They just ignore it, And I often wondered, why us? Why were we exposed to it, and why did we just gravitate to this? Like, wow, you know what I mean?
All right, well, let's go into some crazy fields.
It's special, man. I
do agree, it's special, it's awesome, it's amazing, and I'm very thankful.
All the billions of people in the world.
But two things. First, I'll say there was an interesting thing after one of the family shows that we started. I posted it online too, a question or something or what, I don't remember, but it was relative to the fact that Craig was talking about different numbers, the time of the flood, 8 versus 40 million, and now the 1600, the billions, blah, blah, blah. They come out with 1600. But it sparked a thought that not all people, which maybe I should have already known, but I hadn't thought about, not all people have a neshama. In my mind, if you don't have a neshama, there's probably no way that you can accept or process Yahowah and his Torah. That would be my thought. So like, even though the information's out there, not a lot of people that rejects it may not even be capable of it because they don't have a neshama, which I thought was crazy because I never thought about the fact that there's people, even though I had heard in the beginning outside the garden and all these different things and then to follow them and all that stuff, I hadn't really thought about it that way. And I was like, wow, out of these 8 billion people, there could be 6 billion people or whatever that don't have a neshama. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just never thought about it. And so then I was kind of asking, Kevin had said something where on the comment where he thought it came from the mother and blah, blah. Because like, do both parents have to have a neshama for you to have a neshama? Anyway. So I say that to say I am grateful, but the fact that a lot of people don't do it might just be because they don't have a neshama. Or Craig talks about how they're broken, which I think mine was getting to the point where it was going to be broken because I didn't use it and I didn't listen to it. And I did all the things that I kind of maybe felt guilty about or shouldn't have done and just kept doing. Some of that was just religious crap that was put in my head, making me feel bad for things that maybe weren't something that Yahowah cared about. But, and then the other thing, I completely lost my train of thought. So I'll let you go, Joe, if you have anything, because I had something else. Oh, I remembered it. Apologies. So another thing when we had talked about, and it first came out about the deployments, right? People being deployed. And this is conversations I believe I had with Amy at one point, Amy Diaz, and maybe other people. But one of the thoughts I had that came to my head, because he's got these, and this is before we've gotten more and more details of who's been deployed and so on and so forth, was like, my thought was, okay, so I wonder if there's more than just these main character souls that have been redeployed. And so my thought was like, okay, maybe every generation or however it came along, there were people that were that either knew Yahowah or were interesting to Yahowah and had the ability or traits or characteristics that's like, they might be able to get it. And then maybe they were redeployed. And then who knows, they could have been redeployed, 5, 10 times, whatever. And eventually they kept moving in the right direction. I don't know. Maybe somebody's only redeployed once, or maybe you're a first time Nephish soul who actually is showing those characteristics. I don't know. So many things. I don't have anything to back it up. But that was a thought I had thought about at one time, was like, okay, if people are being employed or deployed, this doesn't mean that you could do it ultimately for everybody if Yahowah wanted to. Now, granted, you're not going to redeploy somebody who doesn't have a neshama, but the neshamas that were out there. So I don't know. It was just something I thought about at one point. It was just kind of interesting. The people that are covenant and could potentially be people that were redeployed, not in the sense they really knew Yahowah, where Yah was whatever, but they could be people that were moving in the right direction or who kind of knew Yahowah. And you know what I mean? I don't know. A weird not off topic off what you said, but going off into a different sphere.
I have a thing to say about that, but go ahead, Joey.
No, I think that's very a very interesting way to think about it. And I always think about too when I'm reading or watching a show and listening, just thoughts while you're going through it. And I know Craig had mentioned it on I think one of the shows this week. But when we do finally, come face to face with Yah, and he's like, "All right, you guys got this right, but hey, you got this wrong, and let me explain it to you. Let me teach you what it really meant." And I always think about like, what are those things going to be? What are we right on? What are we wrong on? And just how much we're going to learn exponentially more so than we are now. I think that's fascinating. So I don't the question you posed, Uncle Bob. I don't know. That is a really good question, and I don't have an answer right now myself personally, but I think it's the material that gets us thinking that way, and whether we find the answer now or we are revealed the answer eventually, um, I think it's all part of this growth and journey that we're on, and it is nice though to know like there are certain things we have to know and understand,
Yeah.
but we're not capable of knowing every single thing. So that takes a weight off of my shoulders because, I wasn't a great test taker in school, and, I maybe didn't put my studies ahead of other things in school and things like that. So this material obviously is very important. So there is a different degree of how I approach it, but it's the slack of, hey, give yourself a little leash because you're not Craig. We're not at that level, and we really don't need to be. But we've got the greatest teacher to learn from, and so yeah, it's fun for me. It's fun. I love it every day. I want to try to learn something new and then go back and okay, how do I what we've learned like don't. I mean that was the tipping point of like, okay, now everything seems to all the pieces are starting to fit together once we learned about Dode, and it's like
Adam.
yeah, firstborn, hello,
Yeah.
firstborn makes sense. So, um, yeah,
But you
so that's
didn't see the part in the Torah about Shabua where you have to take the exam you have to take. You didn't see that part?
I didn't see that part.
I'll send it to you later. I mean, you better get studying.
I know.
There's something. I'll speak for myself, but I don't think any of us, in lieu of the fact what we know how Israel treated Yahweh. Okay, and we know the whole story. They erased his name and they basically spit in his face for thousands of years, but he still loves them. I can't comprehend, and I don't think any of us have any idea what Yah's love truly is until we see him, until we're with him. Because I think it's something because we can only judge love by our earthly love. That's our only perspective on it.
You get screwed over enough, you're like, screw you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're spitting my face for X amount of years. You'll take a hike, But he didn't do that.
I think
he was PO'd with him, no doubt. And he gave him a timeout and divorced him. But he still loves him.
Mhm.
So I can't comprehend that. And not only that, let me just say one other thing. Name somebody whose Craig's soul was deployed in.
Noah.
Okay.
Noah.
Okay. When I was learning about this soul deployment, I've said to myself prior to that, when I get to Shamaim, man, I'm going to want to talk to Noah, and I'm going to want to talk. And now I'm thinking, okay, if Craig's soul was in Noah, where's Noah now? Does that not exist? So when we get to Shamaim,
Did you talk?
wait a minute, is it going to be Yahweh, Dode, the prophets, Craig and Leah? Since their souls were deployed in so many people, where are these people now? Did they disappear? Because I know when their soul left that person and went to someone else, you're not going to have a person soulless.
Right.
The
So it's
family
just a
hour
thought.
yet from yesterday?
Did I watch? Not the last hour.
I feel like he mentioned something about that and towards the
I don't know if I should
second
know this. Am I supposed to know the answer to this? I don't know.
the second half. I think that he mentioned something about it because he was talking about that, like when he goes to talk to that person or something. I thought, and then it's like, but memories. So I think he might talk something about that. I don't know if it would answer your question in what detail, because yeah, that is interesting. If your soul is one soul, then the body wouldn't matter. But he also might just go back and all the memories might come, because I can't recall what he said. But if all the memories come back, then you could go talk to Craig's soul, who would be Chinook, Noach, everybody.
Boaz,
yeah, or Baos, but how it's supposed to be or whatever, I guess. But yeah, you'd be able to. So essentially, he'd be all those people because he's soul, and he just have all those experiences with different physical bodies. So
yeah.
Still young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
try explaining that to someone.
Huh?
Try explaining that to a religious person.
He's a schizophrenic. He has multiple personalities.
Or people would say, this is reincarnation. You people, you're in a cult.
Yep.
I've heard that so many times. You know what I say? You're right. I am in a cult. So now that we've got that out of the way, can we move on?
Right.
The cult of truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he said something about it on the second, maybe not like elaborating, but I feel like there was a mention of like Noach and him being him and talking, or his whatever. So there might be something on there that's relative, which would be kind of cool.
That's cool
That you have that thought that's on the show.
I'm gonna watch it when we're done, and then we'll maybe I'll have to chat about it or something.
Yeah. I need to rewatch it, because when I start typing and stuff, I'm not focusing. And so, unfortunately, a lot of shows I watch, the few that I do, it's at work or try doing something else, and my brain's not focusing. But at least I get a little something. But yeah, so when we wrap this up, I'm gonna blow this joint. These people, man, they're crazy. No, so I mean. Obviously, if anybody has another story, we can wrap it up. We're about an hour and 7 minutes. So, I mean, if you guys got more you want to add, we can. But it kind of turned in for everybody viewing. It went from stories to Torah discussion, but that's okay.
That's cool.
It was a good time.
That's usually what it turns into anyways.
Yeah. Unless somebody just has a really long story, which is awesome. But, like I said, even in the beginning when I started the shows, it's like not – and the shows end up being longer because, like you said, we just start talking. But most people, story, it's like, how long can you tell your story? 10, 15 minutes, That's all.
I could go on and on, but we'll save that for maybe a part 2.
Y to Z.
Well, it's cool. The different generations,
I know.
Yeah.
You got old, kind of old, and young.
Kind of young.
Oh, wait, we're in order, actually.
75.
Yes.
Okay.
45.
35.
Yes. But yeah, no. And when we end it, hang on there for a few minutes, Joey, so we can talk in the studio. All right.
Cool.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining in to this episode of Getting to Know the Beryth Family. And we'll see you next time. Shabbat Shalom. It's
Shabbat Shalom.
So Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Love you, man.
All right.
Love you.
Love you too.